Welcome veterans, family, friends, and students to the 2017 Highland Elementary School Veterans Program. Hi, I'm Maddie Rowland, and I'm a 5th grade leader and member of the Student Lighthouse team. Thank you for your attendance today. Please enjoy our ceremony in honor of you. Please turn your attention to our Highland Choir performing America. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee we sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from
Elementary School, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, their 5th grade has participated in a service project where they collect items for the Apache Troop. And the Apache Troop is down at Fort Campbell. In the last 3 or 4 years, Kathy Mullins, who is our guest speaker, has went with me to deliver items. And I can tell you that the soldiers there are extremely grateful. So in honor of your 5th grade service project, this is a small token of thanks from the Davis County Public Library.
Hello, my name is Adley Butler, and I'm a 5th grade leader and a member of the Student Lighthouse team. I'll be reading a poem entitled The Red Poppy. The red poppy is a symbol to simply show we care for all our fallen heroes, a loss we all equally share. The red poppy is a symbol for many we have lost. In every conflict of war, the valor was at cost. The red poppy is a symbol where with pride for them. As each and every year goes by, we will remember them.
She's a very good friend to me and my family. She is also a Blue and Gold Star mother. The Blue Star is for her son Sean, who is on active duty at Fort Drum. And the Gold Star is for her son Brandon, who was killed while on active duty 6 years ago. Her son Brandon went to elementary school at Audubon and graduated from Apollo High School in 2008. Shortly after high school, Brandon joined the Army and was stationed at Fort Wainwright, Alaska, on his first and final mission. He was killed during an enemy attack on the battlefield in Afghanistan August 25, 2011. Since that time, Kathy and her husband Tommy have worked to turn the loss and sorrow into service and work tirelessly in our veterans community. They started a memorial foundation to honor their son that provides a leadership scholarship at Apollo High School and the Owensboro Hockey League. They also raise money for other veteran service organizations like Warrior 180, Honor and Remember, Honor Flight, and Fisher House. Each year on Veterans Day, the foundation puts together the event called Kentucky Remembers. That is a 5K that also has a fun run for kids, which I will be attending, the traditional Veterans Day parade, and a concert at the Park Center that my sister and I will be performing at. This year on
won the Owensboro Hockey Month into her in a contest, and she won. She's now the official national anthem singers for the Nashville Predators professional hockey team. On a final note, she teaches kinder music to lots of little ones in our town and has 2 dogs, Cotton and Teddy. Please welcome Kathy Mullins.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for having me today to share our family story. Miss Howell, amazing job with that choir. So inspiring. Rhythm section. There are some things on the horizon at the Owensboro Symphony Orchestra for young musicians that we're going to incorporate this, so keep that on your radar. And thank you, Sophia, for that introduction. I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking out at the audience today, and I see so many friendly, familiar faces. I've seen a lot of you in my kinder music classes at the Owensboro Symphony Orchestra. And, I just got to say thank you so much for all the love and support that you have given me over the years and our family. So, something that I know you guys have been reading about has been this Tucky Joe and Little Heart story. And I was so excited when Miss Laura said, we're going to try to connect your story with Tucky Joe, which is really, really incredible. So I'm going to start with some connections to this book. So listen carefully and see if you can make some connections between our story and your character, Mr. Tucky Joe. Actually, he's a real-life World War II soldier, and it's a wonderful, wonderful story. I'm not going to read the whole story, but I'm going to share just a few little highlights I pointed out. Well, first of all, Brandon was born in Kentucky. Tucky Joe was born in Allen, Kentucky. Brandon was born in Ashland, Kentucky. So they both start with the letter A. And they both love to hunt. I know in our story, Tucky Joe was a great hunter. Brandon was as well. But Brandon was a lot like you in that he loved to play baseball and football, soccer, and he also loved hockey. And so I'm really excited that he is part of the Owensboro hockey tradition in our community. Something else was when that Tucky Joe was 10 years old. When he was 10, how many of you are 10 years old today? So when Tucky Joe was 10, he read the newspaper, and the newspaper announced that our country was going to war. When Brandon was 10 years old, he was a student at Audubon Elementary, and our country had just been attacked. It was 9/11 when the Twin Towers in New York City went down. So Brandon was also 10 years old when something that impacted our entire country really touched his heart. And that kind of set him on a mission as he continued to grow. When Tucky Joe was old enough, actually he wasn't old enough, he had to have someone sign a paper to have him enlist, didn't he? Do you remember that from the story? His parents had to sign for him? Well, Brandon was 18 when he signed up. He also was in the infantry. Tucky Joe was in the infantry. And if you don't know what the infantry is, it's a part of the Army that is on the front line of the battlefield. The most action, it's very exciting, and that was right up Brandon's alley. He got to be outside all the time, and he got to carry a gun and learn how to shoot that really well. And I see Tucky Joe in the story was a great sharpshooter as well. So moving on. So all these connections, it's a very, very similar story. Do you remember this part of your story when he finally gets overseas, when he's deployed? Brandon was deployed to a faraway country too. Tucky Joe went from Kentucky all the way around the world to the Philippines. Brandon went from Kentucky all the way to Afghanistan. Something else too that's interesting in the story, Tucky Joe, especially our veterans will understand this, Tucky Joe was in combat over 200 days. That's almost a whole year. I mean, that's a big part of a year, a little over half of a year. Brandon was only in combat less than 100 days when he was killed in action. So that's a little bit of a difference. And when Tucky Joe went over there, it was really hot, right? He was in a hot jungle. Well, Brandon was also in a very hot place. He was in the hot desert. Something else too that Brandon realized early on, that Tucky Joe also realized when it got really hot and you know the battle was going on and he saw all the destruction and all the different things. There is no glory in war. When we do our Armed Forces salute, it's very glorious, it's very grand, and we are so honored to have our veterans who serve. And that's very, very inspiring in a situation like this here at Highland Elementary. However, when you get to your duty station or your deployment, it's hard work, isn't it? You're away from home. So Tucky Joe realized that too. There's no glory in the war. And he spent a lot of time thinking of home, and Brandon did as well. When Brandon would call me, it was always 2 o'clock in the morning, because for him it was during the day. For me, it was middle of the night. And just making some conversation, I would say, Brandon, what are you doing over there? What is your day like? And he says, Mom, it's really hot, and we walk around a lot. And, but when it comes time, I'm going to re-enlist because I need to be here with my boys. So he did think of home a lot. He always tried his girlfriend at that time worked for the Owensboro Police Department. She was a dispatcher, and he would try to call her, but she was always on detail, so she wasn't able to really break away from the phone to talk to him very much. And I love this part of the story when Tucky Joe comes across someone who lives in the area where he's at there in the Philippines. He sees the little girl and becomes friends with her. Well, Brandon, where he was at in Afghanistan, there were children, and we have some photographs of his unit actually, connecting with the villagers there. So Tucky Joe connected with the villagers in the Philippines, just as Brandon's unit did. But he didn't really befriend a child. But how many of you guys have a pet, like a dog or a cat? Do you guys love your dog and cat? Oh, I know, I do too. I love my dog and cat. And there were stray animals in Afghanistan that we have several pictures of Brandon loving on the cats and the dogs. So that was one of the big parts of Brandon's life. He was known as the animal lover. And, something else too I forgot to mention at the beginning. The book, the story is called Tucky Joe, and I thought this was really a really great connection. Brandon was stationed in Alaska. And the infantry unit in Alaska, as in all units of the branches of service, people come from all over the country to be stationed there. He had friends from California, Texas, Florida, all over the country were in Alaska. Well, Brandon was the only guy from Kentucky in his little unit, so he had a Kentucky nickname as well. And I don't know, it was I don't know if it's a really great one, but it represents Brandon, especially those of you who knew Brandon. You want to know what his nickname was? The Kentucky Gangsta. Isn't that true? That was Brandon. This is one of Brandon's former teachers there at Apollo, so it's so great to see you today. So he was called the Kentucky Gangsta because he had swag, he was super cool. You can kind of see from the pictures kind of a little bit of his personality kind of coming out. Something else too that Tucky Joe liked to eat was chocolate. He shared that. Brandon loved chocolate. And the villages and the children, and just so many connections. What a great, great story. Something else too that Tucky Joe noticed when he was overseas. There's danger all around, and there's danger. It's even coming to our country. There's danger all around. We must always be vigilant and aware, and just remember in our hearts. But the danger is really, it's actually in all of us. We all have two emotions, love and hate. And when hate takes over, that's what causes wars. So I just trying to put it in simple terms where you can understand that war is simply hate that has grown and grown and grown. And for us, how can we fight hate? We can love and love and love. So I think that's a very prominent thing to think about. War is simply just hate that has just grown and gone crazy. And that's a wonderful, wonderful story. But I wanted to share just a couple more notes. I know it's a little bit warm in here, but I really, really appreciate you wanting to hear more about Brandon. And I'm always thrilled to do that. I look out here and I see several superhero shirts. I love the hats that you guys have made. Those look amazing, by the way. Well, not too long ago, Brandon was just a regular kid just like you. And he went to college, you and Ottoman. He loved Ninja Turtles. He loved Toy Story and all kinds of things just like you do. Brandon loved hanging out with his friends, and they had so much fun fun, but they got in a lot of trouble too. So I know Miss Miller here would remember that too. Brandon was in the principal's office quite a bit, so, and that's okay because he learned, you know, that's love. You know, when you get corrected, it's someone loving you. So keep that in mind too. When you get in trouble, it's probably your mom, your dad, or your teacher telling you that they love you and they want to help you be a better person. So, as Sophia shared with you, Brandon died in the war. And to help you understand just a little bit more of why we go to war, I mentioned the hate and all that, but I think we've sung a little bit about freedom today. Do you have any idea what freedom really means? You know, some people don't have freedoms. Can we all take just a moment and I'm going to try to give you an example of what freedom is. Can everyone stand up? Everyone who can, just stand up. We all have freedom. We all live in this country. We're all here in Highland Elementary School today in Owensboro, Kentucky. We all are allowed to go to school. Now, if you are a girl, you must sit down. Some places in the world you are not allowed to go to school. If you are a girl, you are not allowed to go to school. That's a true fact. It's part of this world. So does that give you kind of an example of what that really means? Just the freedom to go to school. So you all can have a seat. Something else too that many of you might do is on Sunday mornings or throughout the week, you might go to a church. Raise your hand if you go to a church from time to time. Yeah, that's a lot of us. You know, there are some places in the world where you cannot go to church. And there's a name that cannot be spoken in some parts of the world, a name that you might know. There's a name, Jesus. Have you heard of Jesus? Okay. Well, there's parts of the world where you get in big trouble if you say that name. It's hard to believe that. I mean, because we say it so freely here. Is that real? Is that true, Mrs. County? It is. It is true. So that's what Brandon was over there fighting for, to give everyone freedoms in those countries. We've got, when Brandon came back, when Brandon's unit came back from Afghanistan, one of the gentlemen that was serving with him, one of the people that was with him, reached out to us and wanted to share with us a story. In Afghanistan, there are families there, there are people there, people that love their kids, people that just want to just live their day. They just want to get up and cook a nice meal, make a nice little craft, do little things together, play games. That's what families do, right? That's what communities do. But there are some really bad people in the world who don't want anyone to do that, and they'll do it. They'll stop at nothing to stop that. So when this, actually it was one of the master sergeants. He met us in Alaska because there was a huge ceremony, and he took us to lunch, and he wanted to share with us the story of the village in Afghanistan where Brandon was killed, that general area. He was in intelligence, and they actually pinpoint and know every person that lives in that area. And he said, you know, to Tommy and I, my husband, and said that family, those families over there, they lose children too, because there's an evil force over there that forces their teenagers, that forces their children to do some really bad things. So that's what happened to Brandon. It was a child, a teenager that took Brandon's life. It was a bomb, and it exploded, and so that family lost. He's no longer with us too, and that family was devastated. So we lost a family member. They lost a family member. No one wins in war. We just got to keep moving on and celebrate our freedom and really know what it stands for and what it really means. So, freedoms to go to school, and freedoms to go to church, freedoms just to love and to pursue your dreams. So. Even though Brandon was killed by some really, really bad people, that's not the end of Brandon's story. Brandon is here with us today, and his spirit lives on. And I hope that you can learn from his story and know that all of our time is short in this world, and do the best that you can, and love, love, love as much as you can. And that's our story. So thank you so much for letting me share. It is going to be going home with you guys today. We have brought you see the logo up on the board, that's called Kentucky Remembers, and I'm seeing some of you guys have actually run this 5K. This coming Saturday, Veterans Day, our foundation puts on this project, and I wanted to share with you guys a band that says Brandon's Heroes. You guys are all now one of Brandon's heroes for Kentucky Remembers, and you're invited to join us for the 5K, the Veterans Day Parade, and then also the concert, which Sophia and Skylar are going to be singing at our concert. It's going to be incredible. But I want to have Miss Ava Settles, Dylan Jones, Victor Neves, Abigail Brown, Adley Butler, and Sophia Kane to come down, because they're going to be in charge of making sure you guys all get one of these. So here are the buckets. You guys are in charge of those, so you make sure you get those to all the students. And also, a postcard is going to go home with information about Kentucky Remembers. And you can read more about Brandon's story online in our family at KentuckyRemembers.org. So thank you so much, and you guys have a super great day. It's a wonderful day at Highland Elementary to honor our heroes.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been wonderful having you here. Veterans, we have one last tribute for you this morning from Highland, from our student body as we close.
Say to a hero, to someone
morning, I want to take just a brief opportunity first to thank the people behind the scenes who have been working so hard to make a special day for you. We work really hard to make sure our children really are our leaders of our program. So I'm grateful for all of the boys and girls who had a part in today. You worked so hard to get it together, and it was perfect. But we also have some adults who've worked very hard, so we want to say a big thank you to Ms. Moore, to Ms. Howe, Mr. Steve, all the teachers for getting our kids ready. And first of all, we want to say thank you to you all for coming and joining us today and spending a little time on such a special week. We know that Veterans Day is Saturday, but we've kind of been celebrating all week long, and we're grateful for your service. We're grateful for those who can't even be here with us. This is a big learning opportunity for children this age, and for you all to show up and be with us today just helps them to kind of cement that together. And Leslie and Kathy, I think she's kind of already just inspiring words. So we hope that today, as you leave, you just know that Highland is so grateful for each and every one of you, and we respect you, and we hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week and enjoy Saturday. And boys and girls, remember, the Veterans Day Parade is Saturday. There's all kinds of things going on in our community, and one of the things I love about Owensboro is the support that they give to our veterans, even people in the Coast Guard, because there's just not a song there. So we were so glad to see you stand, because it's important. So thank you so much for being with us today. You'll see some of our children wishing you well as you leave today. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.